Well, let's talk this through with Mohamed Taha, who's with us once again from BBC Arabic. Good to see you, Mohamed. So let's talk about all these issues. The leader of Hamas saying they are willing to discuss a pause in hostilities, but they want a full ceasefire. Is that correct? And that's where the sticking point could be.
That's correct. The position now of Hamas that they won't start the negotiations around hostages unless the ceasefire happens. I think this explains a little bit what's happening in the UN Council, that there is a general atmosphere that this resolution would pass. That's why it has been delayed from yesterday to today, to make sure that the wording is okay.
Well, I was going to say, because from Hamas's point of view, if they're not happy to agree to anything unless it's a full ceasefire, that's very different to the wording that's being discussed at the UN at the moment.
The UN now is discussing an urgent and sustainable ceasefire, and the word sustainable is a very flexible word. Would that mean that, you know, there should be pauses in fighting to make sure the humanitarian situation is lifted up, or is complete ceasefire for permanent ceasefire that this we'll know very soon from the UN
it's
Council.
A suspension of hostilities that the UN is looking at, which is watered down, isn't it? Because the US would not vote in favour of the term ceasefire in this.
Of course, but the talk with that strength about ceasefire and the apparent acceptance from Israel to this is a turning point in this war. And I think the main point that happened in this war, what happened last week when the Israeli army killed 3 of the hostages, this was a turning point inside Israel, and mounted up the calls that these hostages would never get out of Gaza using force, and the negotiation should happen, and the ceasefire should happen as well. Adding to that also the humanitarian situation in Gaza, where now more than 20,000 people were killed. And if we looked at the people who died in Nagazaki, Sally, there are 40,000 people died. So we are talking about unprecedented tragedy that's happening in Gaza that could be unprecedented.
And once again, Qatar is seemingly, very important in this process of negotiating some sort of pause in hostilities between the two sides.
Of course, Qatar is playing a big part. The head of Mossad is in continuous contact with the Qatari side, as long as Hamas is with a continuous contacts with both Egypt and Qatar as well. They are keen for these hostages deal to happen, and the general atmosphere, as I said, is pointing that this exchange of hostages and stop of hostilities would happen soon.
We're just going to look at live pictures this morning. It's now 7:15 local time. This is pictures of Gaza from southern Israel, I believe, from the cameras there. What's the night been like? We can see plumes of smoke this morning.
Of course, fighting everywhere in the strip, especially in this place that we can see. This is Khan Yunis, where Israel think that the leadership of Hamas is there. Fighting is intensified there. The Israeli forces said that 11 people were killed from the Israeli army in the last 24 hours, and Hamas launched a rocket attack against Tel Aviv overnight. So the fighting is still going on fiercely in the strip.
Thank you, Mohamed. Good to have you, as always. Mohamed Taha there from BBC Arabic. Around the